Self-awareness is the beginning of every transformation. It is the light that exposes the shadows within us, the fears, doubts, and insecurities that quietly shape our choices. Most people go through life unaware of what truly holds them back. They blame circumstances, people, or luck, not realizing that the greatest obstacle is often something they've carried within for years, an unhealed wound, a limiting belief, or a hidden fear. The first step toward breaking free from your greatest weakness is to open your eyes to it, to stop running from what you know is there and start confronting it with honesty. When you begin to observe yourself, you start to see patterns, how you react when criticized, how quickly you give up when things don't go your way, how easily you compare yourself to others. These are not random moments, they are reflections of your inner world. Self-awareness teaches you that every reaction has a root, and until you find that root, the pattern repeats. Most people want change without reflection, success without self-confrontation. But growth requires you to stand still long enough to look within and ask, why do I do what I do? What am I afraid of? Those who dare to ask these questions begin a journey that few have the courage to take. True awareness is not about judging yourself. It's about understanding yourself. It's about seeing your weakness without shame. When you can name your weakness, it loses its power to control you. The truth may hurt at first, but it also heals. You can't change what you don't understand. You can't overcome what you refuse to acknowledge. That's why awareness is liberation. It opens the door for transformation. It replaces confusion with clarity and guilt with growth. Every time you pause to reflect instead of reacting, you're practicing awareness. When you recognize your anger before it turns into words that hurt, you're breaking free. When you notice your fear before it stops you from acting, you're taking control. When you admit your pride before it blinds you to correction, you're growing stronger. Awareness doesn't erase weakness instantly, but it shifts your power back to you. You stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. It's not easy to face yourself. It takes humility to say, need to change. The ego resists this because it thrives on pretending. It wants to protect its image, even at the cost of your peace. But the moment you choose honesty over image, something beautiful happens. Your weakness starts to lose its grip. Awareness humbles you, but it also empowers you. It makes you realize that your weakness is not your identity. It's a signal, a message calling for growth. When you become aware of your inner struggles, you begin to see life differently. Challenges no longer feel like punishments. They become mirrors reflecting what still needs healing. People who trigger you are no longer enemies. They are teachers showing you the parts of yourself that still need attention. Awareness transforms pain into purpose. It shifts your focus from blaming the outside world to transforming your inner world. The more you understand yourself, the more control you gain over your emotions, your habits, and your destiny. You start making decisions not out of fear, but out of faith. You stop reacting to life and begin responding to it. You no longer seek validation because awareness reminds you that your worth isn't defined by others. It's defined by who you become through growth. Every day offers a new opportunity to practice awareness. It can be as simple as noticing your thoughts, slowing down your reactions, or asking yourself, what is this moment teaching me? Over time, that awareness becomes your power. It sharpens your vision, deepens your peace, and fuels your transformation. Awareness is not a destination, it's a daily discipline. It's the invisible work that builds unstoppable growth. Because when you truly see yourself, when you recognize both your weakness and your potential, you become free to change, free to rise, and free to become who you were always meant to be. Every weakness you carry hides a seed of strength waiting to be discovered. What looks like a limitation on the surface often holds the raw material for your greatest potential. Life has a mysterious way of shaping greatness out of struggle, turning pain into wisdom and insecurity into humility. The very area that makes you feel small can become the foundation of your power if you're willing to see it differently. Most people spend their lives trying to escape their weaknesses, pretending they don't exist, or wishing they were born stronger. But true transformation begins when you stop running and start asking, what is this weakness trying to teach me? When you begin to see your weakness not as a curse, but as a calling, something shifts inside you. The things that frustrate you about yourself are often the same things that are designed to refine you. A person who feels fear deeply can develop extraordinary courage. Someone who battles doubt can grow unshakable faith. A person who once lacked discipline can become a model of consistency. Weakness exposes the very lesson your soul needs to master. It's not there to break you, it's there to build you. The problem is that most people want strength without the struggle. They want confidence without the challenge, wisdom without the mistake, power without the process. But it doesn't work that way. The greatest strengths are always forged in the fire of weakness. Diamonds are made under pressure. Muscles grow through resistance. Character is formed through pain. Every area where you feel weak is an invitation from life to grow stronger, to develop depth, patience, and resilience. Weakness also connects you to your humanity. It keeps you humble, grounded, and aware that you still have more to learn. People who never acknowledge their weaknesses often become proud and blind to growth. But those who accept their imperfections gain a different kind of strength, the strength of authenticity. They no longer need to pretend. They no longer fear failure because they understand that failure is not the opposite of strength, it's the birthplace of it. When you see your weakness as potential, you stop hiding and start healing. You begin to work on yourself instead of wishing to be someone else. You learn that weakness is not fixed, it's flexible. What you practice improves. What you face transforms. The key is not to eliminate weakness, but to channel it. Turn your fear into focus, your insecurity into empathy, your impatience into persistence. Every weakness, when trained through awareness and discipline, becomes a strength in disguise. There's also a hidden beauty in the fact that weakness forces you to rely on something greater than yourself. It teaches you dependence, not on people, but on faith, purpose, and perseverance. When you realize that you don't have to be perfect to progress, you free yourself from the pressure of pretending. You start taking small steps, trusting that every effort, no matter how small, contributes to your transformation. Over time, your weakness becomes your testimony, proof that growth is possible, that change is real, that even broken things can become beautiful again. Sometimes the very thing you despise about yourself becomes the reason you inspire others. People don't connect to perfection, they connect to honesty. When they see that you once struggled with fear, addiction, or self doubt, but still rose above it, they find hope for themselves. Your weakness gives your story power. It becomes evidence that growth is not reserved for the strong, but for the willing. So when you look at the part of yourself that feels weak, don't label it as failure. See it as a gift, a divine invitation to grow beyond who you are now. Within every weakness lies a potential waiting to be unlocked, a strength waiting to emerge, a lesson waiting to be learned. Life doesn't waste pain. Every struggle has meaning, every flaw has purpose, every weakness has wisdom hidden inside it. The moment you understand that, your weakness stops being a wall and becomes a doorway leading you to the greatest version of yourself. Everything begins in the mind. The way you think shapes the way you live, the way you feel, and the way you respond to life's challenges. Transformation is not an external event, it's an internal decision. You can change your habits, your environment, or even your goals. But if your mindset stays the same, you'll eventually return to the same patterns. The greatest growth happens when you start renewing your mind, replacing old beliefs with new understanding, negative thoughts with empowering ones, and fear with faith. The moment your thinking changes, your life begins to follow a new direction. Most people try to fix the symptoms of their struggles without ever addressing the source, their thoughts. A person who constantly thinks, "I'm not enough," will sabotage every opportunity to prove themselves right. A person who believes, "Nothing ever works for me," will unconsciously create situations that confirm that belief. Your thoughts are powerful architects. They build the reality you experience. That's why growth requires mental discipline, the willingness to take control of what enters and stays in your mind. If you don't manage your thoughts, they will manage you. Renewing the mind is not about pretending life is perfect. It's about training your focus to see possibilities even in pain. It's about choosing perspective over pessimism. You can't always control what happens, but you can always control how you interpret it. The same challenge that breaks one person can build another, depending on how each person chooses to think. When you start viewing problems as opportunities to learn, your mind begins to evolve. Every difficulty becomes a classroom, every disappointment a lesson, every failure a stepping stone toward growth. Changing your mindset also means breaking free from the lies you've told yourself for years. Somewhere along the way, you might have accepted limitations that were never truly yours. Voices from the past saying, "You'll never succeed." You're not good enough. People like you can't do that. Those words may have planted roots in your mind, shaping how you see yourself. But you have the power to uproot them. You can choose to rewrite the story you tell yourself. You can say, I am capable, I am growing, I am not defined by my past. That shift in language begins a new chapter of your life. A renewed mind doesn't happen overnight. It's a daily process, one thought, one belief, one perspective at a time. Just as physical fitness requires consistent training, mental strength requires daily conditioning. You have to feed your mind with truth, inspiration, and wisdom. You have to guard it against negativity, fear, and comparison. Whatever you allow to dominate your mind will eventually dominate your life. When your thoughts align with growth, your actions naturally follow. One of the most powerful ways to transform your mind is through gratitude. Gratitude rewires your brain to focus on what is good rather than what is missing. It shifts your energy from lack to abundance, from frustration to faith. The more you practice gratitude, the more you begin to notice the blessings that were always there. This change in awareness elevates your mindset and attracts growth into every area of your life. The battle for transformation is not fought in your circumstances, it's fought in your thoughts. Your external world is a reflection of your internal world. If you want peace, think peaceful thoughts. If you want strength, think empowering thoughts. If you want change, think growth-oriented thoughts. Every great transformation begins with a single thought that says, I can be more than this. When you discipline your mind, you take back control from fear and doubt. You stop reacting emotionally to every situation and start responding with clarity and wisdom. You begin to notice that your world doesn't change because luck favors you. It changes because you've chosen to think differently. The secret to unstoppable growth lies in mastering your mind, because once your thoughts align with your purpose, there's nothing left that can hold you back. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward in spite of it. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you grow stronger. The truth is, weakness does not disappear through avoidance. It fades through confrontation. Growth happens when you stand face to face with what frightens you and say, I may feel afraid, but I will not let fear control me. Every great transformation in life begins with a courageous choice, a moment when you refuse to let fear dictate your direction. Courage is the bridge that takes you from where you are to where you are meant to be. Fear is natural. Everyone feels it. But what separates the strong from the stuck is not the lack of fear. It's what they do when fear appears. Some freeze, some run, but the courageous step forward. They understand that fear is not a signal to stop, but a signal to prepare. Courage is not loud or dramatic. It's quiet persistence, the calm voice that whispers, try again, even after failure. It's the strength to take the next step when everything inside you says to quit. Every act of courage rewires your mind and reshapes your identity. When you face a fear and survive, your brain learns something powerful, that you are stronger than your emotions. With every courageous decision, You gain confidence. Confidence is not built by avoiding weakness, but by proving to yourself that you can overcome it. It's a cycle. Courage builds strength, and strength gives birth to even greater courage. The beauty of courage is that it doesn't demand perfection. You don't need to be fearless to act. You just need to be willing. You can shake doubt and still move forward. Courage is about showing up when it's uncomfortable, speaking truth when it's risky, and believing when it's easier to give up. It's standing your ground when fear tells you to run. And the more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. Courage grows through repetition. Every time you choose to act despite uncertainty, you train your spirit to trust in your own resilience. Weakness begins to lose its power when you bring courage into the equation. The things that once intimidated you start to shrink. What felt impossible starts to look manageable. You realize that the limits you thought were real were just illusions built by fear. Every time you confront them, those walls begin to crumble. You see that courage doesn't eliminate weakness, it transforms it. The very thing that once held you down becomes the reason you rise higher. Many people wait for courage to appear before taking action, but it works the other way around. Action produces courage. The first step is always the hardest. It feels uncertain, shaky, and uncomfortable. But once you take it, something changes inside you. You realize that fear loses its strength the moment you challenge it. You don't have to know the entire path. You just have to take one step in faith. Each step builds momentum, and momentum creates transformation. Courage is also contagious. When others see you facing your weaknesses with determination, they are inspired to face theirs. Your bravery becomes a beacon for others who are still trapped in doubt. You remind them that it's okay to struggle, that strength is built through vulnerability, and that courage is not reserved for the fearless, but for the faithful. There will be times when courage feels costly, when doing the right thing means walking away from comfort, approval, or control. But that's the price of growth. Every courageous choice expands your life in ways comfort never could. You begin to live with integrity, confidence, and freedom. The walls of fear that once confined you give way to wide, open spaces of possibility. The journey of growth demands courage at every stage. Whether it's confronting an old habit, forgiving someone who hurt you, or stepping into a new calling, courage is the key that unlocks progress. It is the force that turns weakness into wisdom, fear into focus, and hesitation into boldness. Once you start living courageously, you realize that the power to change was never outside of you. It was always within, waiting for you to believe enough to take the first brave step. Growth is not achieved through one big leap, but through consistent, small steps taken day after day. Consistency is the quiet force that shapes character, builds discipline, and transforms weakness into strength. Many people start with passion, but only those who stay committed finish with purpose. It's easy to be inspired for a moment, but true transformation requires perseverance. When motivation fades, consistency is what turns fleeting effort into lasting change. It's the invisible work that happens when no one is watching, the daily choices, the silent sacrifices, and the moments when you show up even when you don't feel like it. Breaking free from weakness is not a single act of willpower, it's a habit built over time. Every day that you choose growth, you strengthen your foundation. Every time you resist the temptation to quit, you build inner power. Strength is not born from sudden victories, but from the accumulation of small, intentional actions. You might not see progress immediately, but consistency ensures that growth is happening beneath the surface, like roots deepening before the tree rises. Over time, those daily efforts turn into transformation so profound that even you will be amazed by how far you've come. Consistency also demands patience. We live in a world that celebrates speed, but personal growth moves at the pace of persistence. Real change takes time, and impatience is often the reason people give up too soon. The person who stays consistent, even when results are invisible, is the one who ultimately succeeds. When you keep showing up, when you keep trying, when you keep believing, you are building resilience. That resilience becomes your greatest strength, the kind that no obstacle can destroy. There will be days when consistency feels heavy, when effort seems wasted, and progress feels distant. In those moments, remind yourself that persistence is not about perfection. You will stumble, you will fall, but consistency means you get up again. Growth is not a straight line. It's a series of rises and falls, lessons and adjustments. What matters is that you never stop moving forward. Every comeback builds confidence. Every recovery strengthens your belief that you are capable of enduring and continuing. Consistency also builds trust within yourself. Every time you follow through on a promise you made to yourself, your confidence grows. You start to see yourself as someone who can be counted on, someone who doesn't quit easily. That self-trust is the foundation of unstoppable growth. When you can trust your own discipline more than your emotions, nothing can hold you back. You stop waiting for motivation and start relying on commitment. Motivation is temporary, but consistency is eternal. Weakness loses its control when you live with consistency. Habits that once controlled you begin to fade because repetition rewires your behavior. The same way bad habits are formed through repetition, good habits are built the same way, through persistence. Each day you make a better choice. You weaken the grip of your past and strengthen the pull of your future. You create momentum that pushes you forward even when your energy is low. Consistency becomes your ally, guiding you through seasons of doubt and fatigue. Consistency also teaches humility. It reminds you that success is not about dramatic breakthroughs, but about daily obedience to the process. There is beauty in steady progress, in doing small things with great faith. When you learn to value the process as much as the result, you free yourself from frustration. You begin to find joy in effort itself, knowing that every act of discipline is shaping the person you are becoming. The secret to transformation lies not in doing everything at once, but in doing the right things repeatedly. Reading a few pages each day, praying with intention, exercising regularly, learning continuously. These small acts may seem ordinary, but over time they produce extraordinary results. Consistency turns effort into excellence and repetition into mastery. Every step you take in consistency rewrites your story. It proves that progress is possible, that weakness can be redefined, that faith and discipline can overcome any limitation. The person who commits to small steps will one day look back and realize that those steps became a journey, that those ordinary days created an extraordinary life. Faith is the unseen strength that carries you through the seasons when everything feels uncertain. It is the quiet assurance that even when you cannot see the outcome, there is a purpose in the process. Weakness loses its power when faith becomes stronger than fear. Faith does not remove the challenges, it transforms the way you face them. It teaches you to trust what you cannot yet see, to believe that every setback, every delay, every unanswered prayer is part of a greater design shaping your growth. When life tests your patience and courage, faith reminds you that nothing is wasted and that even pain has meaning when seen through the eyes of purpose. Faith begins where understanding ends. It takes courage to believe when evidence is missing, to move forward when the path is still unclear. But that is what makes faith powerful. It demands surrender not to defeat, but to divine timing. Growth is not always visible, and breakthroughs do not come on our schedule. Faith teaches patience, resilience, and trust. It keeps you grounded when emotions fluctuate and life feels unpredictable. While fear focuses on what can go wrong, faith looks for what can still go right. Fear limits, but faith liberates. Fear drains energy, but faith restores it. Every person who has ever achieved something meaningful has walked through moments of doubt. But what set them apart was their ability to keep believing when nothing around them made sense. Faith gives you the strength to continue when logic tells you to stop. It becomes the anchor in the storms of life, the force that keeps you steady when everything else shakes. Sometimes faith looks like persistence, getting up again after failure, showing up again after the disappointment, hoping again after heartbreak. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about trusting that what feels like an ending might actually be a beginning. Faith also changes how you see weakness. It allows you to view your struggles not as signs of failure, but as invitations to depend on something greater than your own strength. When you stop relying only on your ability and start trusting in the process, you begin to experience peace in the middle of the storm. You realize that you don't have to have all the answers to move forward. You just need to believe that the answers will come when the time is right. That kind of trust releases the pressure to control everything. It frees you from anxiety and allows you to focus on growth rather than worry. The power of faith is that it renews your strength from within. When your body is tired and your mind is uncertain, faith whispers that you can endure a little longer. It reminds you of how far you've already come and assures you that what lies ahead is worth the struggle. Faith does not make the journey easier. It makes you stronger for the journey. It gives meaning to your waiting and purpose to your pain. It helps you to see that weakness is not the end, but the doorway through which strength is revealed. Faith is not blind optimism. It does not ignore reality, but interprets it through a higher perspective. It sees beyond the present moment to the promise that lies beyond. It understands that growth takes time and that every challenge is shaping something greater inside you. Faith is choosing to keep walking when the road is unclear, to keep believing when the answers are delayed, and to keep moving forward even when progress is invisible. That is how unstoppable growth is born, not through perfect conditions, but through unshakable belief. When faith fills your heart, fear begins to fade. You stop doubting your path because you understand that every step, even the painful ones, are leading you somewhere meaningful. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start declaring, "I'm being prepared for something greater." Faith gives you vision beyond the present struggle. It allows you to live with hope, act with courage, and grow with purpose. When you walk in faith, weakness no longer defines you, it refines you. Each challenge becomes a chapter of transformation, and each moment of trust becomes a step toward unstoppable growth.